Welcome back to another powerful conversation inside the Entrepreneurs Visibility Summit. I am your host, Tiffany Armstrong, and we are diving into a topic that has the power to transform the way you show up, the way you speak up, and amplify your message in the world in a whole new way. So today, I have the honor of spending time with the amazing George Gillis, and let me tell you, you are in for a treat, not only from what he's going to share with you, but he is fun. So this man, he's an award-winning performance coach, a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, also known as NLP. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to learn about it today. And he's had over 30 years in sales, coaching, and leadership. And he's even won the Performance Coach of the Year with Keller Williams, which does not shock me because this man changed my life. I used to completely faint giving speeches on stage, 26 years ago? And I was panicked, and this man helped me through that. And now I stand on large stages, and I have George to thank for that. So George, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to learn from you today. I appreciate you. Let's start with the basics. Let's let our audience in a little bit about you. What do you love teaching? Who do you love helping? Just fill us in a little bit about your background and what you do.
Well, I've been, I think, a teacher and a trainer probably in a previous lifetime and had the opportunity to tap into that this time around. I spent close to 20 years in a direct sales company, helping build that company up. And my greatest joy there was sales management, helping people achieve their goals. Moved into NLP and hypnotherapy in 98 and 2000 and around there. And the people I work with, the ones that are most successful are these. They are people who are motivated to make a change. They know that they are maybe stuck and they don't like where they are, but they're motivated to do what it takes to get there. And they've tried other things. And with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we get to go right to the root. We get into the subconscious part where the problems are and unwind it so they can move forward and succeed.
I love that. I love that. And it is in all areas of life. I know this from personal experience. It's business, it's performance, it's leadership, but it's also in marriage and, just with our health and wellness and the way we look at the world. So rewiring our brains is one of the most amazing and quick things I have ever experienced. I did years of talk therapy and you helped me break through some things in a couple of sessions, which is amazing. And with that, I'm always curious how people, like what sparked you to get into this in the first place? So how did you actually start in the world of brain training?
You might not know this, but I was actually I was a psych major at Drexel University in Philadelphia.
Okay. And
I got talked out of going for a PhD by one of my professors because she said, George, a master's isn't going to cut it. You need to go for a PhD. And the idea of 5 more years of school just did not appeal to me. And I learned more about what makes people tick from selling Cutco knives for 17 years and being in management there. What inspired me mostly to do what I'm doing now was when I changed careers and moved to Phoenix, got into massage therapy because, if you're going to change big. And that led me into NLP because I'm an ideas guy, not a hands-on guy. And the change that I went to a weekend seminar and learned a technique called timeline therapy, which is what I really specialize in, what we did. And the effect that it had on me sitting in a hotel room, literally reading from a piece of paper to each other, I let go of anger. It completely changed my life, and I wasn't even ready to let anything go. And I thought, if this could happen to me, the skeptic from Philly, and I could get good at it, and I could get one-on-one with people, I really have an opportunity to affect people's lives.
I love that. I love that. So it started with you. And then you
started with, I don't do anything with a client that I haven't had done with me, period.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Always. And you do practice what you preach. I have witnessed it and I believe it. And you are one of the most solid human beings I've ever come across. And I know that it's because you trained your brain to be that way. So you're amazing. And I love that. Well, amazing. So our listeners are a mix of entrepreneurs and some entrepreneurs who are also speakers. So can you shine a light on these types of techniques you do, how they actually support them, specifically entrepreneurs and speakers?
Yeah. There's old research that goes back that says that roughly 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So give or take a couple points, 93%. 7% is the words. And what we focus on so much is the words, but we're forgetting about the 55% that's body language, the 38% that's tone, tempo, and pitch. And if the words don't match, if if the audio doesn't match the visual, people pick up on the inconsistency, and they won't know why they're not listening or why they're not buying what you're selling. They just won't, because they're going in different directions. So when we can align that with what you're actually saying, you become more effective. As far as stress is concerned, when we're in stress, we're in fight or flight. So we get really tight, we get very wrapped up in everything, overthink it, and can't deliver with being genuine. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, Tiff, but I've seen speakers on the stage that are so polished and so perfect. Then you meet them off stage and they're a completely different person. Then you see
Mm-hmm.
people on stage that are and they're stumbling a little bit and they're pausing to think, but they're genuine, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to listen to them because they're real. And
Ooh,
I
I love
think
that.
that those blocks have to get out of the way so people can learn to relax prior to taking the stage or the mic or the podcast or working with a client or whatever.
I love that so much. And one other thing that I know you've helped speakers specifically with, because this was one of the things you helped me with, is my nerves, of course, on stage. I'm past those. However, the being able to, if you take a tangent as a speaker, being able to have your mind so clear and focused that you can find your way back to your point.
Yeah,
Because I cannot tell you, before working with you, how many times I would lose my point and I'd stand up and then I would just start faking it till I made it. And I'll be like, okay, I guess I'll go down this path. And I could not get back on track with my talk. So that is another thing that you have really solidified in me and helped me to know I didn't need to be a perfectly polished speaker to make a lot of money as a speaker. I mean, there's so much goodness in that. So it just goes deep. And
it really does.
my gosh, my life's so different because you're in it. I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative.
Well,
All
this
right.
is
So
let
one
me
of the, oh, go
can
ahead.
I go? This
No,
is
go
this
ahead.
is a perfect example of what happened to me. It's a very simple technique that you know real well called soft eyes, still mind, laser focus that I've named. And it's like a 3-minute technique, man. And it's so applicable to everything. Well, everything is a
Mhm.
little bit big to so many things in life. And if people can just master that, they find their way back, and they're so much more calm all the time. So sorry, go ahead.
I love that. No,
Mhm.
no, that's great. Well, and so many speakers, they get really nervous once they see an audience of eyeballs looking at them because they haven't practiced with eyes
Right.
on them. And all of a sudden they get in front of people and all of a sudden your brain starts to just go a little bit of wonky. So you, with those soft eyes techniques, and I've done that
Mhm.
from stage, it just helps me zone in on what my brain's wanting to come up with
That's
instead
right.
of the looks from everybody in the audience, which is so helpful, so
That's
helpful.
right.
All right. So one of the things I know about you is that you have worked with a ton of high performers, right? In business, in life, and all aspects.
Mhm.
Was there a big breakthrough that you witnessed with one of your clients that you're extra proud of? Just a story that you have to share with us?
Y- it won't surprise your listeners to know that you probably sent me these questions in advance. So I
Mhm.
thought about this, and it's like, God, there's so many, but I'm going to stick with this one client who's one of my realtor clients in Maps, Nathan, who started
Mhm.
with me February 2020. So take a moment, let that date sink in, 1 month prior to COVID. And
Mhm.
Nathan was just fired as a team leader. He came into his first time in straight commission sales. And in our first call, establishing what he wants to get out of training, I mean, out of coaching, Nathan said to
Mhm.
me, I just want to not suck. That's the
Aw,
goal. I want
sometimes
to
that's
not,
all we want.
I want to not suck. And I'm going, I think we could probably achieve that level.
Uh-huh.
So now here's a guy,
I love
pretty
it.
low bar.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine. Encompasses
so
a lot.
5 years later, still with me. He went through finally wrapped up after about 3 years, a really difficult divorce.
Mm.
He's got full custody of his 2 kids. So he's a full-time dad. We've now got him to the point where he's got a couple assistants working with him. He is the top solo producer in his market center and is in his brokerage almost every month out of every year for the last 2 years. He's in the top 1.5% of all realtors in his market, and he's in the top
Mhm.
2% of all realtors nationwide. And we are just now ready to take the brakes off.
Oh
And
my
it's
gosh.
all mindset. I didn't teach this guy anything about selling real estate. It's
And
all here.
strategy and all the
It's
things.
all here.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So
And
just phenomenal story.
That's amazing. Well, I remember hearing that story a while back because I was just asking you, just as my buddy in life as well, uh, just because I know we've connected on that level. Just what are some of your favorite things? And you have brought up Nathan several times because, that was a huge bomb that was dropped on him.
Yeah.
And trying to figure not only the business side of things, but his personal life was just taking a tank. And for him to be able to find his way and navigate his way through that, and the other pieces you've shared that you didn't just mention was how that was his performance in business, but how he showed up as a dad. He still showed up for those kiddos like a boss
He's
and just
super dad. Yeah.
handled business at home. And he really did with all the curveballs he was being thrown. So,
Yep.
and that is, it's the power of your work. It's the power of let me just pause TV timeout from the interview for a second. Let me just pause and say these techniques, some of them are just so quick and so applicable, and you could do it with your eyes open in the middle of talking to somebody sometimes when you're feeling triggered by something. I mean, there's so much just ways you can use these techniques, and it really is fascinating how something so tiny, it just seems kind of mundane sometimes. What you've taught me, I'm like, okay, George, I'll try that out. But then I was like, why am I not being triggered by that again? Or why was I so clear on that talk? And it's those subtle little breadcrumbs that I started to follow. And then I look back all these years ago when you helped me, and my life is forever different, like worlds different. So it's just sometimes you don't notice it in the moment, but then all of a sudden it starts to add up. So anyway, very, very impressive. I love these
Continue the
techniques.
TV timeout.
That's right.
Occam's razor, one of my
Mhm.
all-time favorites. When there's multiple solutions to a presented problem, the simplest solution is usually and typically and
Mhm.
almost always the best one. And that's what NLP is all about.
Yeah.
It's working with, see, the subconscious mind has a different set of rules than the conscious mind. And if you understand those rules, you can play in that game. And
Mhm.
once you understand, my goal with my clients is not just to do this quote unquote to them, but to do this with them so they can learn how to do it for themselves. So when stuff happens, they don't have to rely on calling somebody like me. They got it,
Mhm.
got the tool, and they're empowered.
I love that.
That's the whole game. That's what it's all about.
It's one of my favorite things about you is you teach us to not need you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about you. Thank you so much for that. Well, that's fantastic. Well, with all the techniques what advice, is there a specific piece of advice you'd like to pass on to our audience today? Something that could shift either how they think about stress or performance or even just personal growth in general?
Yeah. Two little one-liners. Um,
Okay.
One-liner number one, life is an inside job.
Hmm.
And if you want to change things, you need to change yourself most of the time. So every once in a while, you need to change the environment, get out of whatever you're in. But for the most part, it's the perception that you have inside your own head. So life is an inside job. It's an inside outside job. And the second one which is what I heard in my original training, which I love this one. If you're not in control of your thoughts, who is? Now, if your answer to that is somebody else, you're probably beyond my pay grade. Okay. But so we're responsible for our thoughts. And
Mhm.
the challenge here is that most people don't have the tools, they don't have the strategies or the techniques to tweak them, to go from thought to the image that forms in our head to when you get to the emotion and you're dealing with the biochemistry that's produced by your brain. Sometimes then it's too late because you're deep in the weeds of the feeling. But if you can
Mhm.
interrupt this with the proper tools in faster and faster sequences, you find that, like what you said, hey, why isn't this bothering me anymore? Because you got a better program running subconsciously. It's
Mhm.
not particularly easy, but it's very, very simple. Once you get it, you got it forever.
Oh, I love that. Well,
Mhm.
that's what you just said. You got it forever. Like these are the techniques you use and it's in your pocket forever when different life is throwing you different circumstances and you
Yeah.
start to get into a better place in life in certain aspects. And then life's going to throw you another curveball and you have these techniques to fall back on and they are so powerful. And let me just, again, TV timeout. I love these, but George knows the brain. I mean, the neuroplasticity of the brain and how it wants to anchor down and it likes the familiar. But then when you can actually do these little mini stimulants, is that what you'd call it?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Techniques, whatever. When you do these little techniques, it is amazing how powerful It is to rewire the way you're thinking. And when we have a thought, a hormone is released, our body becomes addicted to that. And George is just, I'm a science nerd through and through, so we won't get too sciencey, but he could speak on that. If you ever want to pick his brain about it, it's really amazing. But anyways, love that. I love that, George. All right. So in helping people rewire their brains, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see or that people tend to have when managing stress or trying to just push through it? What are some misconceptions?
That's the misconception. I can just muscle through this.
Mhm.
Because here's what happens. Nothing happens without your brain, right? Nothing. Once that shuts down, then we're in a whole different conversation. So
Mhm.
when you try to muscle through it, you're stressed. You're stressed out. You're in a tough situation. You try to muscle through it, which builds more stress. Then what's happening is neurologically, you're creating a more dense network of that pattern of every time something else stressful comes along, I'm just going to muscle through it, which creates more stress. So then your
Mhm.
default becomes stress, muscle through, more stress. So that's the misconception that this is the best way to do it. The other
Yeah.
misunderstanding is that you can't change this, and you can. You used the word before, neuroplasticity, which basically means neurons that fire together wire together. Now, the beautiful
Mm.
thing with that is that neurons that stop wiring together can also reach out and form new patterns. So the easy thing to understand here is that this is changeable. Your brain never stops learning. It never stops growing. Neuroplasticity is ongoing. And this is a relatively new discovery. I mean, you used to think that it stopped early on, but it
Right.
doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
So, but again, it's how to get there, and working with the subconscious. I haven't found anything faster, quite frankly, you know,
Okay.
as,
Yeah.
as long as people actually use the tool. There's that
Mhm.
darn compliance thing that
There,
happens,
oh, how dare you bring up compliance when I
yeah,
just want to watch TV and binge Netflix. I'm just
right.
joking. And another misconception I know you bring up often is, I'm just going to ask you a straight question that is not on the list of questions is, can you manage stress?
No,
Yeah, that's my favorite answer.
next
Can you
question.
tell us
Yeah.
why? Yeah, next.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why?
Well, take the word manage. Manage really implies that you have control and direction over something. So
Mhm.
stress management is a misnomer, just like time management is a misnomer. But here's the thing I thought about a long time ago. Time management classes charge a lot of money, okay, to give you all these different kinds of tools. Well,
Mhm.
and there's another, remind me to go into Kolbe with this for a second.
Okay.
But if time management courses actually told the truth and they said it's self-management, they wouldn't sell any courses,
Hmm.
right? Because people want to look outside.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way. Life is an inside job, right?
Mm.
It's all about self-management. You can't exert control and direction over time, just like you can't exert control and direction over the stressors that are in your life, because most of the big ones are completely unexpected.
Mhm.
All we have is how we can manage ourselves. And to manage yourself differently from that old pattern, which we talked about a moment ago, you have to learn new tools, strategies, and techniques.
Mhm.
And most
Mhm.
people don't know this stuff. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of people that teach it make it way overcomplicated. And I think one of my gifts is I make it simple.
Yes, that is one of my favorite things. You have always told me things at a, I'm going to just call it a kindergarten level for me. When I've needed to understand that, you have even given me some beautiful visuals that I will never forget. So that's amazing. And so you were going to go into Kolbe and yeah, that is actually where I wanted to go. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Kolbe.
Yeah, as an example with time management, Kolbe is the only assessment on the market that accurately measures your what's called your cognitive instincts. So there's actually three parts to your mind, three parts to your brain. Well, actually, mind is more accurate. There's the thinking mind, okay, the cognitive mind, what you know, your habits, knowledge, experiences. There's the affective mind, which is your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, your personality, DISC, Myers-Briggs, all those things.
Mhm.
That's only two out of the three. So you got your thinking mind, your feeling mind. The third part is your doing mind. How do you actually do things? How do you actually take control and execute on something that you're striving to do? Okay, if your back is up against the wall, how do you solve problems? How do you take action when you're striving? The first two parts of the mind change over time, neuroplasticity. This third part, however, the cognitive mind, what we know is on test retest, and multiple 20-year studies on this, 94% of the time, the results are the same. So you could take it when you're 18, you could take the index when you're 48, you're going to get the same results, which makes it reliable and predictable. Okay. And like time management, as an example, I went to one, the book was this thick. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I tried it for about 3 days, took the guts out and saved the 3-ring binder because I can't work that way. It doesn't work for me. There's no such thing as one size fits all. That's why time management doesn't exist. How do you manage yourself through the flow of time? Okay. There has to be flexibility. And when I work with clients, one of the first things that I'll do is get their Kolbe index. Do they need a lot of information before they make a decision, or can they make it with a little bit? Or does everything have to be neatly organized? I know you're replaying the conversation with, yeah, okay. Right.
Oh, I know exactly what you're getting at.
I know exactly where you're going. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, and you know, are you a person that likes to experiment, or do you bring stability? You know, do you have to get hands-on, or do you work with intangibles and concepts? And these things don't change. So one of the things that I do with my clients is, look, rather than trying to change you to fit the job, which creates stress, how do we tweak how you do the job so it fits who you are so you can succeed? Which is such a much, there's too much workplace stress. And if we can tweak that, especially with entrepreneurs, man, if you sign the check on the front, you've got the right to change how you do the job.
Sign the check on the front. I've never heard it worded that way. I love that. Well, first of all, that's amazing. And I'm going to just fill the audience in on why we were giggling there, is because my husband, Nate, love this man. He and I took the Kolbe assessment with George, and I actually took mine years ago, and then Nate took his. And it was absolutely hilarious, the differences. And George makes this so light. Even these heavy topics, George has a way of just, I'll speak to you. You have a way of just making it light and fun. So things that have been kind of one of those, you know, in a relationship, you can hit the play button on most disagreements because it's just a replay from the time before kind of thing, a lot of those. So when Nate and I would just feel triggered by one another on some level, it was just like, we would just butt heads about certain topics or certain patterns that we had. And then we just wanted to change each other, you know. And after the Kolbe assessment highlighted why he functions that way, why I function that way, now it's hilarious in our household. So when we are seeing things that used to really annoy us about each other, which there's not a lot, but the things, they exist, right? And once we understood that, goodness, our marriage got even, I mean, we've had a strong marriage, but this is even better, and it makes it light and fun. So it's amazing in how the Kolbe assessment really applies to married couples, because what George does is he puts both of your assessments right up next to it. He'll go one and then the other, and then he puts them next. And usually you're looking at it and going, oh, that's why all these years have been a challenge about that topic or whatever it is. So, and we were laughing about the flow chart thing and organized things, because even when Nate and I would get in a disagreement, I would want to draw out on paper, well, here's the first thing that happened. And if we had gone this route instead of this route, and he's like, why do you analyze on this level? It's just who I am. I'm so analytical with this stuff. So George pointed it out and we got a big kick out of it. So anyways, that was powerful. Go ahead.
And it's not just for couples, but hey, if you're in business and you've got an executive assistant, if you're a sales manager and you got a top sales performer, if you're the owner and you got a COO, CFO, and the other C-suite executives, and you find that you're doing this, okay, and trying to change the other person so that they can think and act the way you do. Well, what if you understand that they do things differently? So instead of this, we get this. And you start working and you complement each other without the stress that invariably comes up when you don't understand that we're just wired differently. It's like brown eyes and blue eyes. Ain't going to change. You're born this way. That's the way it is. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really applicable in business. So with that, moving on from Kolbe, can you tell us a little bit about your POET technique? Just
POET is... Yeah, big picture is this. It's years ago, something hit me many years ago. I think it was back in 2007. Something actually occurred to me that shocked me to my core. In other words, I listened to something on the radio and my mood went into the pits and I couldn't figure out what the heck happened. Then for whatever reason, my brain kicked in, and instead of being in the pits, I was back up again. And I didn't know what it was. And I stopped and canceled my appointments for that afternoon. My original notes on this still have teriyaki stains on them, by the way, from when I sat at the Japanese restaurant. What the hell just happened? I'm trying to figure it out. So I reverse engineered the entire process, and it stands for pause, observe, examine, engage, and thank. That's POET. And I tried it on myself and it worked. I said, okay, cool. Well, it's my mind, it's my brain. Of course it's going to work. So I called a few of my old clients and I said, hey, run this. I want to run something by you, try it out. They liked it. So then I started teaching it to all my clients and it worked. And then I started running it past in workshops and then it worked. And as a result of our conversations, I've put together a very nice little online workshop that's recorded that has Poet. So you all get it for free.
Yeah,
You know,
that is George's free
because
gift.
it's,
And just so you know where it is, right under this interview, that little button right underneath, that's
yeah,
where Poet. And so you can go grab that and learn that Poet technique and watch some things shift in your life, because this stuff is so powerful. I just can't even emphasize it enough. So thank you so much for offering that to our audience as
absolutely.
a free gift. That's really kind of you. So with that said, we're nearing our end of our time here, but what can you tell me just in general, what are you most excited about in business or in life right now? What are you focusing on? What have you created? Anything that comes to mind?
The biggest thing I'm excited about now, Tiffany, frankly, we didn't talk about this part, but I stumbled across you again on a Facebook post last summer.
Mhm.
And it's like, look what she's doing now. Hey, I've been thinking about putting together a program for, like 10 years. And
Mhm.
and through our work together, we've put together a phenomenal online course called Distressed to De-stressed in 6 minutes or less, which which includes almost a lot of the things that I've learned and used with clients that are time tested and proven. Nothing foo-foo. It all comes from science. It's all science based. But both of us, we don't do the feel good society from Sedona. That doesn't
Mhm.
really fly. So, Hopkins and Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, that's where the research comes from.
Mhm.
So it's a phenomenal online course that has multiple tools, physical tools and mind tools to help you better manage yourself through stress. And quite frankly, if you get the course and you do one or two of these things and master them, it'll make a huge difference. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing about it being online is you're going to have it. So you take your time with it, you master one, and they build on each other. It'll be life changing. So I'm most excited about starting things out with that, and then packaging up some of the other stuff that's in my head and experiences that I've had for 20 plus years,
Mhm.
and getting that out to the world. Because I
I
think
love that.
I think we need it. I think we need
You have
ways to do better and treat each other better and deal with stress better.
Oh, yeah. And you have so much just in our random conversations. I know all the things you offer and what you help with your private clients and all the good stuff in the course. And I just know you have so much in that brain of yours that needs to come forth. You just have so much goodness just in our side conversations in life. So I'm excited to see what comes next for you. And for everybody listening, that course that he's talking about, it's the URL for that is D2D. It's DTOD in 6.com. So D2D in 6.com. And you can go find that course there. And again, his Poet, right under this, you can access his Poet training also right under this for free. So under this interview. So last question, Mr. George,
Mhm.
for anyone watching who wants to take a next step with you or wants to communicate with you and figure out how to, get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I think email is the best. George@georgegillis.com, Gillas. 100% Greek, by the way. All right, George at
Mhm.
georgegillis.com is the best way to do it. So just write out what you're thinking. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. I'm busy with clients, so texting me is not a real good idea because I might not be able to get back right away. But I will get back to you. We'll set up a time, a phone call or a Zoom, and I'll answer your questions and see what, if anything, I can help you with. Yeah.
It's amazing. George, thank you so much. And I'll just stop here and say, all right, everyone, the links are right under the interview here. So you can just grab his Poet and then go to his D2Din6.com. And George, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Everything that you have done, not only for everybody else, but for me personally, I just happened to be able to interview my good buddy here because of all the life changes that you've made in my life. So I can't thank you enough. And for all of you watching, you heard this specific conversation with George for a reason, right? There's a reason you have watched this and especially watched it all the way to this point, because obviously something's landing for you. So this this is your nudge to go do something, take a brave step and take a next step with George. And you're more ready than you think. So it's time to level up in life, get out of our own way. We don't need to be sabotaging our lives anymore. It is just time to get some stuff done and get it done quickly. So George is your guy for that. So with that, thank you, George. I
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah, and everyone else, thank you for watching and have a beautiful day.